In City J, within the walls of a certain hospital, a young man reflected on his life. His name was Lee Howron, an ordinary person with an unremarkable existence. At the age of 6, his world was shattered when his parents lost their lives in a fierce battle between the evolved and mutant beasts. Left orphaned, he and his sister were passed from one relative to another, enduring a cold and harsh upbringing. However, misfortune seldom arrived alone. Among the many threats looming over humanity, Lee Howron believed that the mutant disease was a unique affliction linked to mutant beasts. Some individuals proved incapable of withstanding the energy of extra-dimensional beings, their bodies gradually corroded by it. Over time, paralysis set in, and eventually, death became inevitable. The progression of this erosion varied from person to person. Some succumbed within mere days, while others endured for years before meeting their end. Lee Howron had been diagnosed with the mutant disease, a fate he had always feared. The doctor's prescription advised him to adopt a healthier lifestyle, going to bed early, waking up on time, exercising regularly, maintaining a balanced diet, avoiding spicy and greasy foods, and keeping a positive attitude. It also encouraged him to pursue the things he desired. Despite these recommendations, Lee Howron knew the truth. No matter how long it took, anyone afflicted with the mutant disease had no chance of survival. The inevitable outcome loomed over him, draining his hope. Yet, in the face of impending death, he refused to give in. For his sister's sake and to fulfill his mother's last wish, he had no choice but to fight for his survival.
A few days later, on the outskirts of City J, a squad team had assembled, preparing for a crucial hunt.
At the forefront stood Chen Zizhen, known for his abilities in lightning wind and possessing an evolution level of superior steel. With a commanding presence, he began outlining the mission. Reports had indicated that dozens of level 1 mutant beasts had been sighted in the area, attacking residents. Their objective was to infiltrate the beasts' nests and eradicate them completely. For a team of their caliber, level 1 beasts posed no real threat. As long as everyone followed orders, the mission would proceed smoothly without complications. If there's no objections from the squad, they'll setting off immediately toward their target. Excitement filled the air as anticipation for battle grew among the members. As one man says his fists can't wait any longer. Chen Zizhen points out that Lee Howron is the only one on the team who hasn't evolved and reminds him of his responsibility as their carrier. Lee Howron acknowledges this. He internally thinks that as an ordinary human, the only way to be part of a hunting squad is by taking on the role of a carrier. His duties don't involve fighting. Instead, he must follow the team, ensure the supply provisions, and later collect valuable materials from the defeated beasts. With that, the team sets out for the hunt. As they encounter monsters, the team members handle them effortlessly, each taking down their targets without any difficulty. Lee Howron observes the hunt progressing smoothly, thinking that it shouldn't take much time to finish. The difference between ordinary humans and the evolved are worlds apart. As he remains deep in thought, he suddenly notices something unusual. The small stones on the ground begin to roll. The sight unsettles him, as level 1 beasts shouldn't be capable of causing such a disturbance. This suggests the presence of something far more dangerous. At that moment, a monstrous creature with incredible speed charges toward them. It is a level 5 mutant beast, the Titan Snake. One of the women trembles as she recalls seeing this creature on television. The other two men remain silent, visibly shaken as they consumed by fear. The woman trembles as she realizes the threat before them. The information had only mentioned level 1 beasts, but this was a level 5 mutant beast, far beyond what they were prepared to handle. Fear spreads among the group as the reality of their situation sinks in. A loud shout breaks through the panic, urging everyone to run if they want to survive. Without hesitation, the group sprints for their lives, the terrifying presence of the beast driving them forward. The woman struggles to regain her composure, realizing she had almost succumbed to absolute terror. The sudden shout had snapped her back to reality just in time. Frustration builds among the group as one of the men notes the sheer size of the creature. The monstrous snake relentlessly pursues them, closing the distance with alarming speed. Desperation sets in. A man voices the grim reality: they won't be able to outrun it. A solution is proposed: snakes stop when they have something to eat. They need bait. A chilling response follows. Chen Zizhen states that they already have one. Without warning, he suddenly appears in front of Lee Howron. Confused, Lee Howron instinctively acknowledges him, only for a sharp pain to follow. Chen Zizhen's dagger slashes across his chest, and his blood sprays into the air. Betrayal sinks in as Lee Howron's eyes widen in disbelief, struggling to comprehend what just happened. Lee Howron questions his actions. Chen Zizhen approaches Lee Howron with a cruel determination. Reaching for his neck, he lifts Lee Howron up, taunting him with cold words. He explains that, among the team, Lee Haoran is the only one without combat abilities, making him the least valuable. According to his file, Lee Haoran was diagnosed with the mutant disease not long ago and has little time left to live. With no hesitation, Chen Zizhen declares that Lee Haoran is the best choice for bait. With a dismissive gesture, he throws Lee Haoran into the air, coldly stating that his weakness is the reason for this fate. Lee Haoran crashes to the ground near the Titan snake, which immediately takes notice of him. Bleeding and gasping, Lee Haoran struggles to move, his body paralyzed with pain. He can do nothing but lie helplessly on the ground as the monstrous snake approaches, hissing and closing in. The Titan snake opens its massive mouth, charging toward him with terrifying speed. As the creature rushes at him to devour him, Lee Haoran's mind races. If this the end for him? Lee Haoran hears his mother's voice calling out to him repeatedly, pulling him into memories of the past. He recalls the moment when she, gravely injured, spoke to him with fading strength. She had told him that she could no longer take care of him and made him promise one thing: to always protect his sister, no matter what happened. She had urged him to stay strong and survive. As the Titan snake lunges forward, ready to devour him, a sudden formation appears beneath him. A brilliant red light erupts from the intricate markings, radiating power. The formation pulses with energy, creating a connection to another place, somewhere unknown. Shocked, he struggles to comprehend what just happened. He had been moments away from death, so why is he here? His wounds have completely vanished, and even his clothing is different. The last thing he remembers is the red light before everything changed. As he stands there in confusion, voices of surprise reach his ears. A group of women observes him with fascination. One of the monster girls exclaims in disbelief that Nico has actually managed to summon a man. Another, a monster girl, marvels at how the ancient scroll truly worked. Excitement spreads among the group, with one remarking on his handsomeness, while another agrees enthusiastically, calling it a stroke of luck. Amid the chatter, one of the women gazes at him with admiration, stating that it has been a long time since she has seen such a perfect man. Another voice chimes in with growing excitement, admitting that her blood is already boiling. Excitement fills the air as the women continue their reactions. One of them expresses her thrill, unable to contain her enthusiasm. Another points out that Lee Haoran is radiating an incredible magical aura. A third, with a playful tone, wonders what it would be like to play with him, eagerly anticipating the experience. Lee Haoran, still overwhelmed by the sudden change, struggles to make sense of his surroundings. His mind races with questions: where he is? What's going on here? His eyes scan the surroundings, taking in the figures around him. A realization dawns upon him: these women are all succubi. As he turns, his attention shifts to something else entirely. A glowing system panel materializes before him, displaying unfamiliar yet startling information. His class is listed as Blood Demon God, his race is Vampire, and his ranking is Normal Stats. A level 3 mutant beast, Succubus Nico, steps forward, claiming responsibility for the summoning. She explains that she had used an ancient summoning circle to bring him here. When the ritual was activated, the heavens and the earth trembled, releasing an incredibly powerful magic that left them all terrified. Such a commotion could only mean one thing: he must be unimaginably strong. With unwavering determination, Nico bowing slightly before him, swearing absolute loyalty. She pledges to serve him for all eternity, vowing never to betray him. At that moment, the system panel appears once again, displaying a notification: he has gained his first follower. The system then prompts Lee Haoran to verify the newly gained follower. Lee Haoran observes his first follower, realizing that she has just sworn loyalty to him. Almost immediately, a system notification appears. He accesses the system panel to verify the details. The information reveals that she belongs to the succubus race, is 18 years old, and has reached the 3rd level of the mutant beast category. Her characteristics indicate a strong desire to grow stronger and an innate admiration for the powerful. Additionally, her affinity level toward Lee Haoran is recorded at 88%. Another system notification appears, stating that once a follower's affinity reaches 100%, they can be added to the harem, unlocking a mysterious reward. At that moment, Lee Haoran finally understood. He had been reborn thanks to the thing before him. He had acquired a power even greater than that of the evolved, the Blood Demon God system. This time, he finally had the means to take revenge. Nico observed him with concern, noticing his excitement and the way he was interacting with the air. It seemed unusual, almost as if he was reacting to something invisible. Worried that he might be feeling uncomfortable after a long sleep, Nico suggested that he move around a little. Lee Haoran agrees without hesitation, saying he wants to move a bit. Nico wanted him to touch her body if he really needed to touch something, believing it would be an honor to help him relax. Despite it being her first time, she was determined to do everything she could to please him. Another woman found her shameless and stepped forward to take the lead. A third woman insisted that such things should be left to her, claiming her larger and comfier breasts made her more suitable. Li Haoran, however, had no intention of taking advantage of them and questioned whether all succubi were this eager. The system then notified that Nico's affinity had dropped to 85%. Nico questioned what was happening, wondering if her body was not of interest to him. Li Haoran, however, held back from responding. He thinks that he shouldn't say that affinity was supposed to be a key function of the system. Li Haoran realized that if he wanted to take revenge, he had to use the power of the system. Determined to act, he knew he must maximize his affinity with all of them. Wanting to clear any misunderstanding, he addressed Nico, saying she misunderstood him. Hearing his words, she looked at him with slight confusion. Moving closer, Li Haoran acknowledged her beauty, by saying he never saw a woman as beautiful as her. Nico asks if he means it. As a result, the system notified that Nico's affinity had increased to 90%. Blushing, Nico says that if he keep talking like that, he'll make her feel embarrassed. Li Haoran says that he has just been summoned by her and hasn't adapted yet, so he needs energy. Nico says that since he is the blood demon god, he can recover energy as long as he has blood. Showing her neck, she tells him to drink as much as he wants, considering it an honor for her blood to flow within him. Li Haoran thinks about why he feels so much anxiety inside and wonders if it is the natural instinct of his vampire lineage. As his fangs emerge, he realizes that he can't control himself. As he bites and sucks Nico's blood, she moans loudly, and her facial expressions change drastically. The system notifies that Nico's affinity has increased to 92%. Nico thinks that it's incredible, now she is completely united with the master. The system notifies he has acquired a new skill, blood fusion. And additionally strength attributes increased +1. Li Haoran thinks about the new skill and wonders if this is how it works. Pressing the system panel, Li Haoran decides to check the details. The system notifies, blood fusion, passive skill, when absorbing a woman's fresh blood, you'll randomly gain an attribute point. Each target can only trigger this effect once. Li Haoran thinks that even though the points are granted randomly, if he has enough targets, he can gain a considerable amount of attributes without needing to level up. He realizes that this skill is incredibly powerful. Li Haoran calls out Nico's name. Nico responds that she is here. Li Haoran says that he needs more blood. Nico tells him to keep going and that he can drink as much as he wants from her. Li Haoran refuses, stating that he doesn't just need her blood but the blood of others too. He emphasizes that the more women's blood, the better it is. Hearing him, one woman questions if they are included, wondering if it is a new kind of game and finding it exciting. Another woman, seeing Nico's state, expresses envy and eagerness, saying she can't wait any longer. Li Haoran, seeing no objections, invites them all to join together. The succubus women stand in front of Li Haoran, ready to offer their blood. Li Haoran begins biting each woman's neck and drinking their blood. The system notifies, endurance attribute increased +1. As he bites another woman, the system notifies, intelligence attribute increased +1. As he bites yet another woman, the system notifies, agility attribute increased +1. Continuing with each different woman, a different stat keep increasing, including spirit, strength, endurance, intelligence, and agility. One woman exclaims that it's incredible and that she has never experienced anything so thrilling. Even though the bite hurt a little, her heart feels like it's about to burst with excitement. Another woman says that it feels as if her soul and the masters have formed a deep connection, as if she has reached enlightenment. After biting and drinking everyone's blood, Li Haoran thinks that it's perfect. Every succubus here has activated blood fusion. Thanks to them, he has gained a huge amount of attributes. He then wonders if their reactions are a bit exaggerated since he only bit their necks. The system notifies, the succubi's affinity has increased. Li Haoran questions whether succubi have such sensitive bodies. The system continues notifying, the succubi's affinity has increased. Night falls over the succubus village. Nico sneakily enters the room. Nico says that she is coming in, mentioning that there were too many people outside earlier, so he couldn't manage well. She silently climbs onto Li Haoran's bed. Nico, craving, says that ever since he bit her, she has been obsessed with that thrilling sensation. She urges him to have a deeper connection, now that it's just the two of them, telling him that he can give it his all. With a flushed face, Nico says that she wants to become a real succubus tonight. She then says that she is going to get on top. Nico says that something feels wrong. The sensation is too intense. Feeling off, she removes the blanket covering Lee Haoran, only to find a wooden block in his place instead of him. Sighing in disappointment, Nico asks if he has already found something more important than her. Somewhere in a graveyard, Lee Haoran arrives at the location. He states that even though his level is still only 1, after a whole day of absorbing blood, his attributes have become pretty solid. Lee Haoran thinks that the most important thing now is to seize every real combat opportunity. He resolves that he must level up, and then he will get revenge on that guy. Lee Haoran thinks that this cemetery is filled with dark energy. Based on his experience with the hunting squads, places like this are usually inhabited by mutant beasts of the undead race. If he unleashes his magical energy, he should be able to attract them. Lee Haoran decides to show what he is capable of. Determined to reveal his strength, Lee Haoran releases his aura, which spreads all over the graveyard. The disturbance awakens the creatures lurking in the shadows. A couple of level 1 mutant beasts, faceless specters, emerge before him. They recognize the disruption and, driven by an instinct to protect their rest, mark him as their target, preparing to attack. As the level 1 mutant beasts attack, Lee Haoran responds with a powerful punch, unfazed by their assault. More beasts join the attack, intent on killing him, but he effortlessly crushes them one by one. With each kill, the system notifies him that his experience has increased. As his rampage continues, another notification appears. He has leveled up and gained 5 attribute points, prompting him to assign them. Undeterred, Lee Haoran keeps attacking, cutting through the undead creatures with ease. The system repeatedly notifies him of experience gains, level ups, and additional attribute points. Eventually, a new notification appears. He has unlocked a new skill, Crimson Flash, allowing him to perform 2 short dashes within 5 seconds. That night, Lee Haoran continues his relentless assault, eliminating level 1 mutant beasts, the faceless specters. As he fights, a realization takes hold. This is what it feels like to battle mutant beasts as the evolved do. The thrill and power surge through him, making the experience feel incredible. The system notifies him that he has reached level 8 and prompts him to assign his attribute points. No longer the despised baggage carrier, Lee Haoran acknowledges his transformation. The system panel appears before him, displaying his status screen, his stats and achievements reflecting the effort he has put in. Assessing his growth, he determines that the attributes most beneficial for combat are strength, endurance, and agility, along with his newly unlocked skill, Crimson Flash. Lee Haoran thinks that assigning his points to strength and endurance should be a reasonable distribution. Just as he is lost in thought, the system suddenly issues a danger warning. A level 2 mutant beast, Butcher, emerges from behind and launches a sudden attack. Despite its unpredictability, Lee Haoran manages to evade just in time. Observing the creature, he notes that despite its enormous body, it is not slow at all. Before he can fully process the situation, another attack comes his way. Reacting quickly, Lee Haoran notices a second Butcher joining the assault. With a swift jump, he narrowly escapes the chain attack, realizing the increasing difficulty of the battle. Lee Haoran recalls that the faceless specters appeared with their names in green, indicating they weren't a real challenge. However, the Butcher's name is displayed in yellow. He wondered if it means it's a formidable enemy for him. Understanding the significance of this encounter, he resolves to face the challenge head-on. Given a second chance by fate, he knows that no matter who stands in his way, he must overcome them. In front of him, the 2 level 2 mutant beasts, Butchers, stand with eerie smiles on their faces, exuding a menacing presence as they prepare to strike. The level 2 mutant beast, Butcher, glares at Lee Haoran with fury and launches an attack with its long blade. Lee Haoran swiftly dodges and leaps into the air, positioning himself near the creature's head. With all his strength, he delivers a powerful kick, but the beast remains unaffected, not even budging. Realizing the creature's incredible toughness, Lee Haoran notes that mere punches and kicks won't be enough to harm it. Before he can strategize, the second Butcher strikes with its chains, attempting to bind him. Reacting with speed, Lee Haoran maneuvers away just in time, evading the deadly restraint. As he lands, a weapon appears in his grip, an old, worn-out deteriorated iron sword. Lee Haoran acknowledges the danger. These 2 Butchers support each other, making them incredibly troublesome opponents. However, he takes a small victory in managing to rip a weapon off one of them. Though the sword is slightly broken, as long as the battle doesn't drag on, it should be sufficient. One of the Butchers raises its long blade and attacks. Lee Haoran swiftly dodges, using his sword to deflect the strike. With 80% of his attribute points invested in strength, he knows he can handle a direct confrontation. Seizing the moment, Lee Haoran counters by pushing the Butcher back with all his strength. The sheer force of his attack successfully knocks the massive creature backward, momentarily breaking its stance. The level 2 mutant beast, Butcher, looks around in confusion, unable to locate Li Haoran. Seizing the opportunity, Li Haoran leaps into the air from behind, sword in hand, closing the distance with precision. As he nears his target, the moment of execution arrives. With a powerful thrust, he drives his sword deep into the butcher's skull, shattering bone as blood splashes from the wound. The creature becomes lifeless. The system immediately notifies him. He has leveled up twice and gained 10 attribute points, prompting him to assign them. Li Haoran registers his rapid progression. Defeating a single monster has allowed him to level up twice in a row. The thrill of facing stronger enemies makes the battle even more exhilarating. The system notifies him that he has reached level 10 and unlocked a new skill, Blood Interment. This ability creates a blood swamp in the target area, slowing enemies while unleashing blood blades to inflict severe damage. Meanwhile, the remaining butcher, witnessing its fallen comrade, lets out a scream of agony. Li Haoran notes the change. Its name now appears in green, a clear indication that it is no longer a worthy opponent. Without hesitation, he prepares for the final strike, ready to end the battle. The level 2 mutant beast, Butcher, furiously hurls its chains at Li Haoran. However, he effortlessly dodges, noting how slow the creature has become. As the relentless attacks continue, Li Haoran recalls his experiences, not as a warrior, but as a carrier who has witnessed countless battles. The butcher's movements are predictable, its attacks easy to read. With confidence, he decides to end the fight using his newly acquired skill. Activating Blood Interment, a crimson field materializes beneath the butcher. The blood swamp surges, transforming into razor-sharp blades that pierce through its body from all directions. The creature lets out one final, agonized cry before collapsing lifelessly. The system immediately notifies Li Haoran of another level up, awarding him 5 attribute points to allocate. Even though Li Haoran had already read the skill's description, witnessing Blood Interment in action leaves him stunned. The sheer brutality of the ability exceeds his expectations. The system then notifies him of a new title, Undead Killer. As the title appears above his head, he realizes that the title system has been activated. The system further informs him that bearing this title grants him a 5% damage bonus against undead enemies. With the battle finally over, the long night gives way to dawn. As the sun rises high, marking the start of a new day, Li Haoran stands amidst the battlefield, stronger than ever. Li Haoran acknowledges the danger he faced, but the rewards of his rapid growth in just one night make it all worthwhile. The system panel appears before him, displaying his updated status. His newly acquired title, Undead Killer, is now listed, and his overall stats have significantly improved through his relentless effort in the graveyard. With confidence, he envisions his future. If he maintains this pace, it won't be long before he catches up to Chen Zizhen of the superior steel rank. Just as he gathers his thoughts, the system interrupts with a new notification. His daily mission has been generated, urging him to complete it on time. Li Haoran wonders about the daily mission. What could it involve? He wondered if he completes it, there will surely be a reward. The system then provides the details. Before the next dawn, he must absorb the fresh blood of at least one character of the opposite sex to activate the skill Blood Fusion. A follow-up notice clarifies that each character of the opposite sex can only activate Blood Fusion once. Failure to complete the mission on time will result in a random deduction of 5 attribute points. Li Haoran is taken aback by the nature of the mission. Having to drink a woman's blood every day? It sounds like something straight out of a vampire's curse. On top of that, the penalty for failure, losing 5 attribute points, is too steep to ignore. Frustration sets in as he recalls that just yesterday, he had already absorbed the blood of all the succubi in town. And now, he's given a mission like this? It feels like a scam. Stuck in the middle of a wasteland, he wonders where he's supposed to find another woman. Then, a realization strikes. Who said there are no women here? With that thought, he turns and approaches a level 1 mutant beast, Faceless Spectre. Li Haoran acknowledges that even though he has already killed her, she remains a female ghost. A ghost still counts as a woman, which seems logical to him. Opening his fangs, he bites into the neck of the level 1 mutant beast Faceless Spectre, believing her blood should suffice. As he bites, the system notifies him that the target's blood is rotten and cannot activate Blood Fusion. A brief silence follows as he processes this information. The thought crosses his mind that the decay might be due to her being dead for too long. Despite this, he remains undeterred. With many faceless specters still present, he assumes that at least one of them might work. Moving swiftly, he begins biting into the necks of every level 1 mutant beast faceless specter, ensuring none are left out. However, the system repeatedly notifies him that the target's blood is rotten, preventing blood fusion from activating. Li Haoran realizes that the issue lies in the nature of these creatures. They belong to the undead race, meaning their blood was never fresh to begin with. Reflecting on his actions, he understands that absorbing all the succubi's blood the previous day was a mistake. Frustration builds as he recognizes his impulsiveness. Releasing his aura, he focuses on his immediate need, women. His mind races, searching for where he might find them next. The scene shifts to Li Haoran's house in the succubus village. Inside, Nico lies on his bed, her posture exuding seduction. Surrounded by his lingering scent, she indulges in the sensation, as if his presence still envelops her. The experience feels almost tangible, drawing her deeper into the moment. As Nico lingers in her thoughts of Li Haoran, a sudden sensation washes over her. Her senses sharpen, an undeniable feeling taking hold. Instinctively, she recognizes it. Li Haoran must need her urgently. Meanwhile, elsewhere, a jeep moves along a rugged path. Inside, a blonde-haired man voices his frustration, noting that they have been searching all day without success. Doubt creeps in as he questions whether they might have taken the wrong route. Beside him, a black-haired man remains resolute. He recalls that the previous day, a brief yet distinct surge of magical energy had appeared. Despite its fleeting nature, he is certain that it originated from this direction. The energy was unlike anything he had sensed before, its uniqueness suggesting something extraordinary. His mind races with the possibilities. If this energy belongs to an extremely rare mutant beast, capturing it and delivering it to the corporation could lead to promotions and substantial rewards. The thought fuels his determination as they press forward, hoping to track down their elusive target. The blonde-haired man hesitates, expressing his concern. If the target is as rare as described, its abilities remain unknown. Without proper understanding, engaging with it could lead to unforeseen danger. From the back seat, a woman interjects. Her tone carries authority as she dismisses his hesitation, reminding him that their company thrives on fearlessness and relentless pursuit. The corporation's teachings emphasize pushing forward without hesitation, and his cautious approach contradicts that philosophy. Apologetic, the blonde-haired man acknowledges her words, addressing her as the team leader. His worry lingers, however, as they have yet to inform the corporation about it. The woman, Li Zhuir, leader of the 4 Evolve team of Hongcheng Corporation, known as Polar Rose, remains unfazed. With unwavering confidence, she reassures him that there is no need for concern. As long as she is present, nothing will go wrong. Rose remains focused, aware that they are not the only ones who sense the magical energy. Time is critical, they must get ahead of any competitors. The jeep moves steadily, approaching a location near Li Haoran. Spotting the vehicle, Li Haoran's mind races. Humans have arrived. A thought crosses his mind: if the woman he needs is inside that vehicle. The blonde-haired man observes their target, questioning whether he is the one they have been searching for. The black-haired man quickly confirms, recognizing the exact same magical reaction from before. However, a detail stands out: despite the uniqueness of the energy, its strength is underwhelming, barely reaching level 2. Annoyance flickers across Li Haoran's face. A man. Given the circumstances, their intentions are clear: they have come to hunt him. His expression darkens as he eyes them with irritation. Before any further thoughts take shape, Rose steps down from the vehicle, her presence commanding immediate attention. Rose observes Li Haoran carefully, noting his attire. His appearance resembles that of a mutant vampire beast, an unusual sight. However, her interest fades just as quickly. With a magical energy level of only 2, he isn't worth the effort of a proper fight. Without hesitation, she issues a command. Her subordinates are to finish him off swiftly, place his body in the trunk, and move on. Li Haoran's eyes light up with a different realization. A woman, an actual woman, stands before him. Yet, there's a problem. She isn't just any woman, she is an evolved one of gold rank. In his current condition, facing her is impossible. His gaze shifts to the red title hovering above her, undeniable proof of her strength. Even her 2 subordinates are formidable, both holding superior bronze ranks. The difference in power is undeniable. Standing idly is not an option. If he does nothing, his fate is already sealed. Li Haoran swiftly activates Crimson Flash, disappearing in an instant and reappearing behind Rose. The unexpected speed of a level 2 mutant beast catches her off guard, her mind briefly wavering in surprise. Before she can react, Li Haoran moves decisively, wrapping his arms tightly around her. The sudden contact elicits an involuntary response from Rose as she struggles to process the situation. Her body tenses as she feels his firm grip restraining her, an unfamiliar sensation overwhelming her senses. Her mind races, unprepared for this kind of confrontation. She has never encountered an opponent who engaged her in such a way, throwing her usual composure off balance. A rare tremor runs through her body, her breath growing unsteady as she tries to regain control. However, the unexpected nature of the situation momentarily clouds her rationality, forcing her to reassess her next move. The black-haired man, filled with frustration, shouts angrily, demanding that Lee Haoran release their team leader. The blonde-haired man, equally enraged, echoes the sentiment, questioning his intentions toward Rose. Rose, her face flushed, struggles to make sense of the situation. Confusion lingers in her expression as she questions the meaning behind his actions and why he is holding her in such a way. Lee Haoran, unfazed, opens his fangs. With a solemn tone, he acknowledges his actions but insists that he has no other choice. Without hesitation, he sinks his fangs into Rose's neck, drawing her blood. As he feeds, Rose's face deepens in color, her body growing increasingly sensitive to the experience. Her breath quickens involuntarily, the unfamiliar sensation overwhelming her senses. A sudden notification from the system interrupts the moment. Daily mission completed. Strength attributes increased +1. Rose, her breath unsteady and body still sensitive, struggles to process what just happened. A realization settles in, she has never experienced such close contact before. The words form in her mind, but they remain stuck in her throat, unable to be spoken aloud. Pushing past the moment, she suddenly raises her voice, commanding Lee Haoran not to be so excessive. Her outburst triggers a skill, instantly sending him flying through the air. His body crashes into a tree before he collapses to the ground. Recovering quickly, Lee Haoran questions her words. Excessive? He doesn't see it that way. Her tone suggests hatred, but he doubts that's the full truth. Rose, still flustered, tries to reaffirm her stance. The reality of what just occurred unsettles her. This man not only touched her but left a mark on her neck, something undeniable. A system notifies Lee Haoran that Rose's affinity level has increased to 30%. Her expression darkens as she clenches her fists. The mark remains, a reminder of what transpired. Frustration surges within her, and she declares that there is only one way to settle this. Only by turning Lee Haoran into an ice sculpture can she calm her anger. Lee Haoran observes Rose closely, a knowing look in his eyes. Her words may be harsh, but her actions reveal something else entirely. He recognizes the contradiction. She may speak with hostility, but her heart isn't as cold as she wants to appear. Rose, her face still flushed, reacts sharply, dismissing his words as nonsense. She refuses to accept his interpretation, insisting that she isn't just all talk. Lee Haoran, however, remains unfazed. His instincts tell him he made the right gamble. As long as she doesn't truly intend to kill him, there's still a chance for him to escape. Before he can act, something catches his attention, a sudden attack. A card-shaped projectile hurtles toward him, its speed too fast for him to dodge. His body tenses, realizing he has no way to avoid the incoming strike. Just as the attack is about to land, Rose intervenes, moving with precision. Her hand catches the card skillfully, stopping it inches away from Lee Haoran. Her expression hardens as she immediately calls out the ambush, demanding the hidden assailant to reveal themselves. A voice responds, laced with amusement. From the shadows, a man in a suit steps forward, his eyes gleaming with interest. A smirk plays on his lips as he acknowledges her strength, calling her a fierce woman. The boy steps forward, his demeanor calm as he reassures Rose not to be so worked up. He insists that his intentions are not malicious. Identifying himself as Yuen, a lower gold rank fighter, he explains that he merely noticed her hesitation and wanted to lend a hand. Beside him, Zheng Jie, a superior gold rank warrior, speaks with authority. If Rose has no intention of killing Lee Haoran, then it would be best to leave him to the elite center. Lee Haoran observes the two men carefully, his mind analyzing the situation. Both of them bear red titles, one of lower gold rank and the other of superior gold rank. The realization sinks in. More powerful opponents, all targeting him. Today, it seems they are determined to eliminate him. Rose's expression sharpens at their words. She immediately rejects the proposition. The elite center? Not a chance. She asserts that Lee Haoran was first marked as prey by Hong Chung, making it impossible to hand him over. Lee Haoran, despite the tension, lets out an awkward smile. With a playful tone, he acknowledges her claim, stating that only a beautiful, noble, and cold woman like her has the right to possess him. The others are simply unworthy. The system promptly notifies him that Rose's affinity level has increased to 30%. Rose's gaze softens, her eyes carrying a rare hint of affection. With unwavering confidence, she declares that Li Haoran already belongs to Hong Chung. If anyone wishes to lay a hand on him, they will have to go through her first. Li Haoran watches her, impressed by the sheer dominance she exudes. He states that her overwhelming presence alone has already placed the opposing side at a disadvantage. System notifies Li Haoran that Rose's affinity level has increased to 45%. Li Haoran, seizing the moment, shifts his focus to the two men beside Rose. A smirk plays on his lips as he remarks on their strong and charismatic appearances. Surely, two formidable warriors like them wouldn't allow themselves to be bested by those repulsive types from the elite center. The black-haired man, emboldened by the statement, responds with conviction. Fear has never been a part of Hong Chung's identity. No matter the opponent, they stand their ground without hesitation. Yuan sighs, shaking his head slightly. With a calm yet disappointed tone, he acknowledges the inevitable: the negotiation has failed. Without hesitation, he gives the order. Zheng Jie, go ahead. Zheng Jie immediately acts, launching another card-shaped attack. His voice carries no hesitation as he states that they already gave Hong Chung a chance. Now, they will face the consequences. Rose, however, remains unfazed. With a mere lift of her hand, she effortlessly stops the incoming attack. Her expression remains cold as she points finger toward her opponents, activating her skill, Snowstorm. A sudden change overtakes the battlefield. Snow begins to fall heavily, and the howling winds intensify, engulfing everything in a white haze. Zheng Jie grits his teeth, frustrated by the skill's effect. The icy winds are so fierce that he can barely keep his eyes open. Meanwhile, Yuan remains composed, silently observing. Analyzing the situation, he recognizes Rose's strategy, using Snowstorm to restrict their movement and create an advantage for herself. A calculated and intelligent move. Turning to Zheng Jie, he speaks with newfound interest. They have just encountered a formidable opponent. Rose observes with irritation, believing that her snow melts before the dwarf even gets close, making him far from ordinary. However, based on his words, it appears he has no intention of fighting. The thought crosses her mind: if he is underestimating her. She gives a firm instruction to keep a close watch on the target to prevent any escape. The two standing by acknowledge the command with confidence. With a powerful leap, Rose propels herself into the air. Li Haoran watches her in awe as she gracefully ascends. Mid-air, she begins preparing her skill, Ice Song, channeling its energy with precision. Without hesitation, she swiftly follows up with another spell, Polar Rose, directed at Zheng Jie. Zheng Jie reacts with disbelief, unable to comprehend the idea of fighting with a flower. Before he can process it further, the Polar Rose strikes him forcefully from above, freezing him in place. The blonde-haired guy observes the impact and acknowledges that the attack landed perfectly, leaving no room for arrogance. The black-haired guy, impressed by the display of strength, affirms the undeniable power of their leader, a testament to the Hong Chung group's might. As the impact settled, Zheng Jie became encased in ice, his movements completely restricted by Polar Rose's ability. Yuan, watching the scene unfold, realized the difficulty of the situation. Explaining this defeat to his father, especially at the hands of a woman, would not be easy. Rose questions the situation, wondering if there is an underestimation of women. She declares that he's next opponent. Yuan, unfazed, notes that it seems she's still not fully understood the situation. At that moment, 3 arrows suddenly come flying from an unknown source. The arrows strike the black-haired guy and the blonde-haired guy. As they are hit, their bodies slowly begin to turn into rock. Rose, in shock, processes the sight, realizing that petrification is occurring. Confusion sets in as Yuan considers the presence of another new contender. Nico runs toward Li Haoran happily and then hugs him tightly, expressing relief at finally finding him. Li Haoran, surprised, acknowledges Nico's presence, finding it incredible that she made it there. Nico explains that she sensed his need for her and rushed to help. With unwavering determination, she expresses her willingness to give her all as long as she can be useful. Observing their closeness, Rose trembles with anger. Li Haoran appreciates Nico's loyalty, recognizing how valuable it is to have a subordinate like her. Nico, in return, considers it an honor to serve under him. Frustration builds within Rose as she struggles to understand her own emotions. The thought crosses her mind: if it's irritation from watching them interact so closely. She immediately dismisses the idea, refusing to believe she could be so shallow. Instead, she convinces herself that her rage stems solely from the petrification of her people. With growing fury, she demands that they stop their flirting and restore those who have been turned to stone. Yuan observes the situation and concludes that the opponent has been poorly chosen. He questions whether someone who struck his people now intends to simply walk away. Rose quickly assesses his movements, realizing that he is too fast. Before she can react, Yuan launches an attack, striking her hard in the stomach and sending her flying backward. Li Haoran watches the scene unfold and processes the overwhelming strength before him. The power of a superior gold warrior is undeniable, so much so that even a lower gold leader struggles to withstand it. Recognizing the gap in strength, he understands that neither he nor Nico stands a chance against Yuan. Recalling the system's mention of a secret reward unlocked when a follower's affinity reaches 100%, Li Haoran sees this as his only hope. With survival on the line, he realizes that he must stake everything on this opportunity. Nico thinks that the enemy is formidable, but retreat is not an option in front of his master Haoran. Yuan sets his sights on the rare blood beast but is pleased to discover an unexpected bonus, a succubus. Seeing this as an incredible stroke of luck, he considers the potential recognition from his father if he successfully brings them back. With a calm but ominous tone, he assures that there is nothing to fear, promising a swift end without any pain. In response, Nico, filled with anger, unleashes her arrows at Yuan. However, he effortlessly crushes them, mocking their weakness. With disdain, he notes that even Hong Chung's so-called warriors were barely a challenge, let alone these attacks, which fail to faze him in the slightest. Without warning, Yuan swiftly closes the distance between himself and Nico, preparing to strike. Just as he is about to land his attack, Li Haoran moves in front of Nico, drawing Yuan's attention. As the attack nears, Li Haoran activates his skill, Crimson Flash, causing Yuan to miss his target. Yuan, momentarily stunned, tries to process what just happened. The sudden disappearance confuses him. How could a mere level 2 beast move faster than his eyes? The thought seems impossible. Meanwhile, Li Haoran quickly assesses his own situation. Having already used 2 flashes, he realizes he has no means of escape left. His only chance now is to obtain the secret reward before Yuan catches on. However, confusion sets in. Why hasn't Nico's affinity increased yet? Was everything happening too quickly for a proper reaction? Nico, feeling helpless, expresses regret for being unable to defend herself. The thought of her master stepping in to save her weighs heavily on her. Determined to improve, she vows to work harder from now on. Li Haoran, however, remains focused on the moment. He reassures her, saying there is no time for apologies, survival is the only priority. Li Haoran moves closer to Nico, his face nearing hers as he attempts to kiss her. Nico, caught off guard, hesitates for a moment. Internally, she questions whether this is the right time for such an act in the middle of a battle. As Li Haoran presses his lips against hers, doubt fades from her mind. At this moment, nothing else matters. If this is what Master Haoran desires, then as his follower, it is her duty to please him. The system suddenly notifies that Nico's affinity has increased to 99%. Yuan, witnessing the scene, feels his annoyance escalate into pure fury. The sight of them kissing in the midst of battle fuels his anger. Disgusted, he questions whether a beast is still just a beast or if they are merely using this moment to hide and indulge in such acts. The thought crosses his mind, if he arrived just a little later, would they have even started mating? The mere idea enrages him. With his fury boiling over, he resolves to reduce not only their bodies but also their very souls to ashes. Li Haoran, filled with frustration, processes the situation, only 1% left, yet still not enough. The gap feels agonizingly close, but time is running out. Yuan, consumed by rage, charges at them with a lethal attack, intent on ending them. Li Haoran, holding on to Nico, urges internally for a faster response from the system completion, desperation creeping in. Yuan, growing more furious, curses the constant interference. Just as the attack nears, Rose intervenes, casting extreme ice protection to shield Li Haoran from the strike. Yuan, acknowledging her action, makes it clear that he spared her only because of the Hong Chung group, warning not to misunderstand his restraint. Rose, unfazed by his words, challenges his reasoning. Someone like him wouldn't simply let an enemy live. With an icy demeanor, she stakes her claim. Her target is the vampire, and if Yuan intends to take him, he will have to go through her first. As Rose and Yuan engage in a fierce battle, Li Haoran reaches the final stage within the ice prison. Continuing their kiss, the system suddenly notifies that Nico's affinity has increased to 100%. A surge of emotions washes over her as she becomes more sensitive to the moment. The thought of being kissed by her master in the middle of battle fills her with overwhelming happiness, making her feel as if she could melt. Immediately the system issues another notification: the secret reward has been unlocked. A message appears, congratulating Li Haoran for obtaining permission to use Bloodthirsty Beak once. By activating it, he will temporarily unlock all the attributes and abilities of the Blood Demon God, granting him unparalleled combat power. The system further clarifies the duration. Bloodthirsty Beak will last for 10 minutes. A blood red formation spreads around Li Haoran, its presence stretching high into the sky. The sheer intensity of its existence sends a wave of shock through both Rose and Yuwen, who instinctively recoil at the sight. Yuwen, now silent, fixes his gaze on Li Haoran, who stands directly before him. Meeting his eyes, Li Haoran stares back with an icy, unwavering gaze. The cold atmosphere lingers as Li Haoran reminds Yuwen of his previous words. Wasn't he planning to reduce him to dust and ashes? Now was his chance. Yuwen, still in shock, struggles to comprehend the sudden transformation. Just moments ago, he was dealing with a mere level 2 beast, so how did it suddenly exude such an overwhelming and terrifying power? Li Haoran, unmoved by the hesitation, remarks that the opportunity had been given, yet it remained untaken. Li Haoran activates Devil's Hand, lifting Yuwen into the air effortlessly. Yuwen's mind races as he realizes he has lost control over his own body. Panic sets in as an invisible force tightens around him, rendering him helpless. In an instant, Li Haoran pulls him closer, gripping his neck firmly. Yuwen, struggling to breathe, feels the immense pressure crushing down on him. Desperation takes over as he pleads for his life, admitting his mistakes and begging for mercy. Li Haoran, however, remains unmoved. His voice is cold and steady as he reminds Yuwen, just moments ago, his tone was completely different. Yuwen, filled with fear, desperately admits his past foolishness, acknowledging his failure to recognize true power. Pleading for forgiveness, he lowers himself completely. Li Haoran, however, remains indifferent. A sense of déjà vu washes over him. This scene feels all too familiar. He recalls a time when he, too, was lifted in the air like worthless trash, ready to be discarded at any moment. His mind drifts back to the one responsible, a registered evolved from the elite center. That memory only strengthens his resolve. If anything, it makes forgiving Yuwen even harder. With that thought, Li Haoran hurls Yuwen into the air before vanishing in a blur of speed. In an instant, he reappears, delivering a devastating punch to Yuwen's stomach. The force sends him hurtling through the air, crashing violently into a towering iceberg. As Yuwen collapses to the ground, his body trembles from the impact. Racked with pain, he coughs repeatedly, his injuries severe and his strength nearly depleted. Li Haoran reflects on the overwhelming strength surging through him. The feeling of standing above everyone else, wielding the power of the Blood Demon God, is intoxicating. A question lingers in his mind: will he ever truly possess this power permanently? Rose, still in shock, struggles to comprehend what she is witnessing. Just moments ago, this was the same little vampire who had bitten her. Did he always have such terrifying power hidden within him? A realization dawns: if he's been holding back the entire time, letting her win? Meanwhile, Nico watches in awe, her thoughts filled with admiration. The sight before her is beyond imagination. Truly, this is the master she chose. His strength is nothing short of incredible. Suddenly, cracks spread across the ice as Jung Jae forcefully breaks free from Polar Rose. Shaking off the last remnants of the skill, he regains his footing. Dismissing his earlier defeat, Jung Jae declares that it was nothing more than a momentary lapse that led to his capture. However, now that he has escaped, things will be different. With a serious expression, he prepares to fight once more. Jung Jae, looking at Li Haoran's stance, is momentarily confused. His expression shifts as he questions the meaning behind it. Without hesitation, Li Haoran activates Red Storm. A dark energy pulses from his body, and within moments, countless bats emerge from his robe, filling the air like a living shadow. Disgusted by the sight, Jung Jae recoils, his face twisting in disdain. He curses the creatures, demanding they get out of his sight. However, the bats are relentless. Swarming him from all directions, they latch onto his body, tearing into his flesh with terrifying speed. His screams echo through the battlefield, but in mere moments, nothing remains, only bones left behind as the swarm disperses. A system notification rings out: he has leveled up 5 times. And obtained 25 attribute points. Prompting him to assign them. Li Haoran, exhilarated, processes the sudden growth. Defeating a gold-level enemy in one strike had granted him an incredible boost in experience. The satisfaction of such a rapid power surge is undeniable. Another notification follows: a new skill has been permanently unlocked, Red Storm. The system describes its effects. Red Storm summons a swarm of bats to attack enemies, dealing immense damage. It is especially effective against multiple targets. Yu Wen, trembling with fear, pleads desperately for his life, begging for forgiveness. Li Haoran, his expression unreadable, leans in slightly. Mocking him, he asks Yu Wen to speak louder, he can't quite hear him. Panicked, Yu Wen raises his voice, shouting that he doesn't want to die. Desperation seeps into his words as he reveals his last bargaining chip: his father is the president of the elite center. If Li Haoran spares him, he promises wealth, power, and anything else he desires. Li Haoran pauses for a moment before responding with an eerie calmness. Does Yu Wen wish to go home? Then he will gladly help him. Relief washes over Yu Wen. Thanking Li Haoran repeatedly, he praises him, calling him a great person and swearing to repay him in the future. Li Haoran, maintaining his unsettling composure, dismisses the gratitude. There's no need for repayment, after all, he's simply someone who enjoys helping others. With that, he grabs Yu Wen and effortlessly hurls him high into the air. His help has just begun. Nico and Rose noticed that. Rose thought it seemed like the direction to City J, wondering if he was really being sent home. As Li Haoran throws Yu Wen into the air, he dashed through snow-capped mountains, heading toward City J. He crashed into a building in City J, likely his destination. The system notified that he leveled up 5 times and earned 25 attribute points, prompting him to assign them. Li Haoran reflected on the experience he gained, feeling relieved that he had arrived home safely and soundly. He says that he also leveled up another 5 times. Although, in theory, his experience should have been greater, it seemed that the higher the level, the more experience was required to level up. Li Haoran turns back and looks at Rose. Rose asks what he plans to do and if it's her turn now. Li Haoran responds, mentioning that there's something he's curious about and needs Nico's cooperation for. Rose wonders what that means, questioning if it has anything to do with her. Nico responds eagerly, stating that at Haoran's command, he can do whatever he wants. Li Haoran then activates the skill Soul Resonance. Nico feels something happening, as all her energy concentrates in her chest. She realizes something is about to emerge, exclaiming that it's huge and wondering if his chest had hidden something like this. She questions whether it's Haoran's sacred sword. The sword slowly emerges. Nico protests, feeling it's too big, asking Haoran to be gentler and take it out slowly. In response, Li Haoran grips the sword's handle carefully and begins pulling it out. He reassures Nico, explaining that this is the result of their soul resonance and there's nothing to worry about. As he continues, he tells Nico to hang on a little longer. Finally, he fully draws the sword. Li Haoran raises the sword high, reflecting that the soul resonance skill can only be activated when a follower's affinity is at maximum. Through this resonance, a special piece of equipment materializes from the follower's body. Li Haoran realizes that this is the blood blade, Bredso, the piece of equipment that Nico has given him. Rose remarks that he pulled a weapon from her chest, questioning whether with his strength, he truly needs a weapon to defeat her. She wonders if he plans to use that sword specifically to finish her off. Li Haoran swings the sword, replying that she's overthinking it. The swing cuts through Rose's clothes, leaving only remnants behind. Rose, feeling an unexpected sense of freshness, is stunned and looks at her body, realizing she's left only with the lingering pieces of her torn clothes. Rose, with a flushed face, feels frustrated, believing this is playing dirty. If she is going to be killed or torn apart, so be it. She questions why her clothes are being removed. Li Haoran dismisses her words, stating that enough has been said. What happened earlier was just a small test, and if she doesn't want to end up like the others, she should follow him to the little grove in the back, where he has something to discuss. Li Haoran then takes Rose into the woods. She wonders what he wants to talk about and why he hasn't said anything yet. The secluded location and being alone with him make the situation feel awkward. Various thoughts fill her mind as she tries to understand his intentions. A sudden realization dawns on her as she begins to grasp the situation. Rose thinks about how Li Haoran spared her life before and still hasn't killed her. There can only be one explanation: he must have fallen in love with her and wants to take advantage of her beauty. Observing Li Haoran, Rose notes that his appearance and body structure aren't much different from a human's. By common beauty standards, he would likely be considered handsome. Following this logic, she assumes what will come next is inevitable. Lost in her thoughts, Rose envisions herself being tightly embraced from behind by Li Haoran. In her illusion, she believes that the dominant one always takes the initiative. Li Haoran pins Rose against the tree. Thoughts race through her mind as she wonders if he is about to start. The idea of losing her first time to a vampire feels completely against morality. Li Haoran commands her to repeat his words, declaring eternal loyalty as subordinate Li Zhuir, vowing never to betray him for all eternity. Confused, Rose questions the meaning of this and whether it is some kind of role-playing game. Lee Haoran dismisses her doubts, making it clear that he hasn't spared her life just so she could question his orders. He demands obedience. Blushing and breathing heavily, Rose repeats the words as instructed, swearing never to betray an eternal loyalty towards him. Rose, still blushing, questions if Lee Haoran is satisfied now. A system notification appears, confirming that he has obtained his second follower. In front of him, a system panel materializes, displaying Rose's status window. The system provides detailed information. Her name is Rose, she belongs to the human race, and she is 24 years old. Her evolution level is classified as lower gold. Her characteristics include great strength and extreme competitiveness. Despite her cold and distant appearance, she has a pure heart and a somewhat narcissistic nature. She has a preference for dominant men. Lastly, the system reveals that her affinity towards Lee Haoran stands at 45%. Lee Haoran moves closer to Rose's lips and acknowledges that she did well, expressing his satisfaction. Blushing and breathing heavily, Rose's thoughts race as she wonders if he is about to kiss her. Submitting to the moment, she questions whether she is about to lose her first kiss. If so, what follows next seems inevitable. Even though she anticipated this, it feels too fast. However, Lee Haoran abruptly ends the moment, stating that time is up and the reward ends here. Confused, Rose questions if it's really over and what happens next. Lee Haoran informs her that her two subordinates should regain mobility soon, allowing her to take them with her. With a serious expression, he warns her not to reveal anything about him to anyone. Rose acknowledges his demand and agrees to keep quiet. Lee Haoran turns to leave, stating that he has no more time to waste on her and bidding her goodbye. With a flushed face, Rose calls out for him to wait. Lee Haoran stops and questions whether she craves more. Blushing, breathing heavily, and covering herself, Rose expresses concern about her companions seeing her in this state, finding it too awkward. She asks for his help. In response, Lee Haoran hands her his robe. As Rose wraps herself in it, she notices its lingering warmth and the scent embedded in the fabric. The intimacy of the gesture overwhelms her, making her feel deeply embarrassed. A system notification appears, indicating that Rose's affinity for Lee Haoran has increased to 50%. Completely captivated by him, Rose, with a seductive expression, is consumed by embarrassment. That night, in the succubus village, Lee Haoran sits in his bedroom, reflecting on the day's events. Too many things happened at once. He not only reached level 21 but also unlocked several new skills. A system notification appears, detailing his improvements in stats, levels, and achievements gained through battle. System detail about the newly acquired skill, Hidden Blood Art. This skill allows him to enter a state of invisibility for a short duration. However, upon attacking, he becomes visible again, dealing additional damage while recovering 5% of his HP. Lee Haoran, feeling the surge of power from his newfound strength, acknowledges the excitement of growing stronger and resolves to keep pushing himself further. Suddenly, the system notifies him that reaching level 21 grants him the right to challenge the Blood Hell Arena and asks if he wishes to participate. A system note provides additional details. Inside the arena, experience points will not be gained, and wounds will not heal automatically upon leveling up or exiting the challenge. However, the rewards for completing it are substantial. Processing this information, Lee Haoran realizes that regardless of victory or defeat, any injuries sustained during the challenge will not heal on their own. This means that taking damage could slow down his leveling progress, making the decision even more critical. Lee Haoran weighs his options, realizing that logically, it would be best to wait until he reaches a higher level before attempting the challenge. However, after making so much progress, the thought of waiting feels unbearable. Determined, he commands the system to open the Blood Hell Arena. With a firm resolve, he acknowledges that wealth and power are only obtained by taking risks. Casting aside all hesitation, he embraces the challenge, ready to face whatever awaits him. Lee Haoran steps into the teleportation gate, finding himself in an unfamiliar location. He notices that his outfit has intricate details, but the environment doesn't resemble a combat arena. A system notification welcomes him to the preparation room, instructing him to select a weapon for combat. Suddenly, several weapons materialize before him. The first weapon is two-handed knight's sword with the strength plus 30, agility minus 10. The second weapon heart-piercing dagger with the agility plus 30. The third weapon great battle axe with the strength plus 15 and endurance plus 15. The fourth weapon solar shield with the endurance plus 25 and spirit minus 5. Faced with these choices, Lee Haoran considers which weapon best suits his combat style. Lee Haoran examines the weapons, noting that each one has unique attributes. Any of them would be a significant upgrade, but he lacks experience with any particular type. Unsure of which to choose, he weighs his options carefully. Suddenly, something unusual catches his attention. Turning to look, he notices an unexpected choice: long spiral yellow cucumber. Unlike the other weapons, it offers no attribute increases but has an additional effect. When repeatedly attacking an enemy, it induces a brief spasm effect. Intrigued, Li Haoran picks it up without hesitation. Confident in his decision, he declares this as his chosen combat weapon. Li Haoran examines the long spiral yellow cucumber, acknowledging its odd shape but recognizing its potential. The ability to induce spasms in enemies could be highly effective if used strategically. With the right approach, this unconventional weapon might become incredibly powerful. A system notification appears, instructing him to select one of the following upgrades to assist in combat. The first one is Defense Break. Each time damage is dealt, the enemy's defense is reduced by 1%. The second one is Potion. Obtain a potion that immediately restores 30% of HP. And lastly, the third one is Equipment Forge. Receive an additional random item. Faced with this decision, Li Haoran realizes that he must choose an upgrade without any knowledge of his opponent. This uncertainty makes the selection even more crucial. Li Haoran analyzes the upgrade options, drawing from his past gaming experience. He determines that reducing the enemy's defense is a versatile and highly efficient strategy. Without hesitation, he selects Defense Break. A system notification confirms, upgrade activated, and he will be transported to the Blood Hell Arena. As he enters, an announcement echoes through the air, welcoming him to the arena. Looking around, Li Haoran takes in his surroundings. The atmosphere feels dark and oppressive, radiating an ominous energy. The arena's anchor voice booms, introducing the challenge: welcome to the first level of the Blood Hell Arena. The arena consists of 50 levels, each guarded by a powerful entity. Defeat the Guardian to claim valuable rewards and advance to the next level. The official commentator of the Blood Hell Arena introduces herself with enthusiasm: the adorable and charismatic little devil, Sally. She announces that today's challenger, Li Haoran, a crimson-powered vampire. Li Haoran finds the presence of a commentator unnecessary and irritating. Sally continues, highlighting that while he belongs to a rare race, he is still a rookie. She builds anticipation, questioning whether he will surprise the audience. She then introduces the first-level Guardian, a fairy from the Night Forest, known as a harbinger of ill omens and death. Li Haoran's opponent appears from the opposite entrance. He questions what's wrong with her and why she doesn't stop crying. Banshee Banshita introduces herself as a messenger from hell, capable of predicting the death of mortals. She states that wherever death is imminent, she appears to lament for those about to perish. She reveals that she sees an overwhelming aura of death around Li Haoran, which is why she cries for him. Li Haoran demands clarification, questioning whether she is implying that he will die here. Li Haoran notices the absence of a level indicator above Banshee Banshita's head, questioning whether the arena has restricted certain system functions. Releasing a swarm of bats, he prepares to test her strength firsthand. The bats move swiftly, aiming to devour her, but in an instant, she eliminates them all using her long, blade-like nails. Unfazed, Banshee Banshita dismisses the attack, stating that the bats are powerless against her and that Li Haoran is no match for her. She then advances toward him, launching an attack from the behind while declaring the battle to be over. Li Haoran swiftly dodges the attack, leaping into the air and grabbing Banshee Banshita's hand. He reveals his strategy, emphasizing the concept of luring the enemy. Acknowledging that his Red Storm attack was ineffective, he prepares to strike with his long spiral yellow cucumber instead. Upon seeing the weapon, Banshee Banshita is visibly taken aback. She reacts instantly, refusing to let him touch her with it. In the scuffle, the cucumber flies out of Li Haoran's hands. Sally, observing the fight, announces the unexpected turn of events. She notes that Li Haoran has dropped his peculiar weapon and speculates that Banshee Banshita may have a strong aversion to staff-like objects. She wonders if he is potentially shifting the battle in his favor. Sally observes the unfolding battle and notes an unexpected turn of events. Li Haoran successfully traps Banshee Banshita, gaining control over the fight. Adding to the surprise, Banshita finds herself in an embarrassing split stance, completely vulnerable. Li Haoran firmly restrains Banshee Banshita, holding her hands while keeping her trapped in a split stance. Banshee Banshita struggles, unable to break free, questioning how he could possibly surpass her in strength. Suddenly, her heels slip, causing both of them to fall. Li Haoran lands on top of Banshee Banshita, maintaining his grip on her. Analyzing the situation, Li Haoran acknowledges the unexpected impact of his chosen weapon, noting that just the sight of it seems to disrupt her focus. With unwavering confidence in his strength, he demands her surrender, asserting that she has no chance of escaping. Lee Haoran, still holding Banshee Banshita in place, points out the discomfort of her stance and urges her to surrender, promising to go easy on her. Suddenly, Banshee Banshita lets out a loud, ominous cry. Lee Haoran is caught off guard by its intensity. As the cry escalates, an overwhelming force sends him flying through the air, slamming him hard against the arena wall. Realizing the sheer power behind her cry, he acknowledges that her strength must not be underestimated. Sally, witnessing the turn of events, announces the activation of Banshee Banshita's ultimate attack, Alpha Howl. She explains that anyone who hears this cry will experience an absolute fear of death, gradually losing their spirit until they are completely unable to fight. Ultimately, they will be dragged into the abyss of death. Sally remarks that if Lee Haoran's mental fortitude is not strong enough, enduring Banshee Banshita's cry will be nearly impossible. Lee Haoran clutches his head, struggling as the overwhelming sound drowns out everything around him. Observing his reaction, Sally declares that her prediction was correct. Lee Haoran won't be able to withstand the attack. She suggests that the fight's outcome is already decided. The scene shifts to Lee Haoran's mental realm. A familiar voice calls out to him. His mother appears before him, greeting him warmly. Tears well up in Lee Haoran's eyes as he recognizes her. His mother reassures him, playfully scolding him for doubting her presence. She then acknowledges how much he has grown, remarking that life must have been difficult for him over the years. Lee Haoran's mother gently extends her hand toward him, urging him to come closer. She expresses her desire to reunite as mother and son, promising that they will never be separated again. However, Lee Haoran's expression darkens upon hearing her words. She persists, calling out to him once more, enticing him to take her hand and step into eternal bliss, where they can be together forever. Noticing his hesitation, she questions his reluctance, urging him to act quickly. She reminds him of how much he must have missed her and insists that he take her hand. In response, Lee Haoran says that death isn't unfamiliar to him in his past experiences. He recalls the betrayal of his former companions, who stabbed him in the back and left him for dead as food for a beast. He remembers battling an unknown disease, living under the constant fear of sudden death. His mind revisits a childhood memory, barely escaping an accident involving a fight between mutants and evolved beasts. Lee Haoran recalls how his mother risked her life to save him and his sister from that disaster. He realizes that she didn't sacrifice herself so that he would easily give up his life, she did it so that he could survive and keep living. Summoning immense mental strength, he lets out a powerful scream, shattering the illusion and breaking free from its hold. Banshee Banshita is stunned, unable to believe what just happened. Without hesitation, Lee Haoran retrieves his weapon, the long, spiral yellow cucumber, back into his hands. Sally, witnessing this turn of events, exclaims in amazement. She acknowledges that Lee Haoran's ability to withstand Alpha Howl proves his extraordinary mental strength. She notes that this battle is becoming even more thrilling. Lee Haoran activates his skill, Hidden Blood Art. Now enveloped in invisibility, he declares that he has fully grasped Banshee Banshita's abilities and that it's finally his turn to attack. Banshee Banshita, visibly alarmed, reacts with shock upon realizing that he can even use an invisibility skill. Without hesitation, she unleashes Beta Howl, pouring all her might into the attack. Sally, acting as the commentator, explains that Beta Howl transforms Banshita's cry into raw energy, making it an even more brutal and devastating technique than Alpha Howl. She further notes that this indiscriminate attack engulfs the entire arena, meaning that even invisibility won't be enough to escape it. Lee Haoran moves swiftly, unhindered by Beta Howl, and closes the distance to Banshee Banshita in an instant. Without hesitation, he forcefully thrusts the long, spiral yellow cucumber into Banshee Banshita's throat. System notification, White upgrade, defense break, activated. As the skill takes effect, Banshee Banshita's defense is reduced by 1%, and Lee Haoran's HP is recovering gradually by 5%. Sally, stunned by the turn of events, exclaims in disbelief that he has successfully broken through Beta Howl. Unfazed, Lee Haoran smirks and declares that this fight isn't over yet, the best part is still coming. Lee Haoran unleashes his long cucumber burst attack skill, relentlessly striking Banshee Banshita without pause. System notification, White upgrade, defense break, activated. With each successive hit, the system continuously notifies that the target's defense has been reduced by 1%, over and over, without stopping. As the relentless assault continues, Banshee Banshita begins to falter, her defenses rapidly weakening. Overwhelmed, Banshee Banshita struggles to comprehend the situation. How could he, just a mere cucumber, possess such overwhelming power? Worse, with every attack, the force behind it grows stronger, the pain intensifying beyond endurance. She can't take it anymore. Li Haoran's relentless assault continues, leaving no room for reprieve. As his attacks land with unwavering force, the system promptly notifies, additional effect of long spiral yellow cucumber, activated, the target goes into a state of spasms. The barrage remains unceasing, and with every strike, another notification follows, target's defense reduced by 1%. The effect stacks continuously, weakening Banshee Banshita further with no end in sight. Overwhelmed, Banshee Banshita finds herself unable to endure any longer. Her body, no longer under her control, moves uncontrollably. A strange sensation overtakes her, making everything feel more and more unfamiliar. The system notifies once again, additional effect of long spiral yellow cucumber, activated, the target goes into a state of spasms. The relentless notifications continue, target's defense reduced by 1%. The cycle remains unbroken, as the attack shows no sign of stopping. Li Haoran's relentless assault leaves no room for resistance, his continuous attacks giving Banshee Banshita no chance to breathe. With each strike, her defense crumbles further, and the overwhelming force finally drives her to the ground. The system notification persists without pause, target's defense reduced by 1%. The effect continues stacking endlessly, ensuring her complete defeat. Li Haoran asks if she wants him to continue. Crushed and unable to endure any longer, Banshee Banshita finally surrenders. She pleads for the attacks to stop, unable to withstand another blow. Yet, even in her defeat, the system notification remains unbroken, target's defense reduced by 1%. Sally watches the battle unfold, her entire body trembling as her jaw drops in shock. The sheer brutality of the fight is overwhelming, just witnessing it sends shivers down her spine. As the dust settles, Li Haoran, unfazed, turns his attention to her. With a firm voice, he calls out, reminding her that Banshee Banshita has already surrendered. The fight is over, it's time to announce the result. Snapping out of her daze, Sally quickly regains composure. Realizing she had been too caught up in the intensity of the battle, she apologizes before formally declaring the outcome. Banshita has surrendered. The winner of this battle is Li Haoran, earning him the right to challenge the second level. The system promptly notifies, abnormal state resistance +10, increasing resistance to mind control, poisoning, hemorrhaging, and other abnormal states. Another notification follows, skill point +1, granting the ability to upgrade unlocked skills for more powerful effects. Li Haoran reflects on his victory, recognizing the true value of his rewards. This is his war loot, not only does it enhance his special attributes, but it also grants him the ability to upgrade his skills. Coming here was undoubtedly the right decision. The system promptly notifies, if he wished to continue with the second level of the Blood Hell Arena challenge. A choice now stands before him, to proceed or to wait. Considering his condition, Li Haoran weighs his options. While he has already claimed his rewards, his body has yet to fully recover. Rushing forward out of mere pride would be reckless. It would be wiser to strengthen himself further before taking on the next challenge. With that decision in mind, he chooses to decline, opting to level up before attempting the second level of the Blood Hell Arena. With his decision made, Li Haoran is sent back to Succumb's village. Slowly regaining his senses after the intense battle, he steps out from the battlefield. Just as he exits, the system suddenly issued a notification, informing him that he had unlocked a hidden skill, Winner's Pact. The unexpected reward raised questions in his mind about why it had activated immediately after leaving the arena. The system detailed the skill's effect: any opponent defeated in the arena would become his follower, and outside the arena, he could summon them to assist in battle. The realization struck him with shock. Now he possesses the ability to summon the very foes he has conquered. If he continued progressing beyond level 50, the implications were immense. He could potentially command an entire army. Hearing a sound from inside his home, Li Haoran immediately recognizes its familiarity. His curiosity piqued, he slowly pushes open the door and steps inside. As he enters his bedroom, the sight before him is unexpected. Nico, blushing deeply, her breathing heavy. Lost in her own thoughts, she revels in the lingering scent of the room. Even in his absence, the bed still completely retains Haoran-sama's scent. It's overwhelming, intoxicating even. A wave of happiness washes over her. This moment feels like pure paradise. But something is different. The scent has grown even stronger, filling the room in a way that makes her heart race even faster. Then, suddenly, Li Haoran is standing right there. The moment their eyes meet, he questions her directly. What is she doing? Caught off guard, Nico tensed up, her face turning redder as she nervously tried to explain herself, insisting that she wasn't doing anything strange in his bed. Nico explained that she had only come to bring him new clothes. Since he had given his coat to a human, she had stayed up all night making one exactly his size. Lee Haoran patted her head, appreciating the effort. He had been wondering how to get new clothes, and she had brought them to him at the perfect time. He assured her that he truly couldn't be without her and promised to treasure the gift, never giving it away again. Blushing deeply, Nico handed over the clothes and quickly left the room. Her thoughts raced as she replayed his words. To her, it felt like a direct confession of love, a declaration that he wanted her by his side forever, serving him for the rest of her life. After 2 intense battles, day and night, Lee Haoran finally managed to sleep deeply. A sudden scream echoed through the village as a succubus woman ran frantically, warning that orcs were attacking. Chaos erupted as the invading orcs stormed the village, hunting down the succubus women and tying them up. The orc leader commanded his subordinates to loot everything, leaving nothing behind. Excited by the order, the slave orcs raised their weapons and spread through the village, capturing every succubus woman in sight. No one was spared. Ensuring that their captives wouldn't escape, they secured the restraints tightly. Meanwhile, the orc leader gave further orders to seize all the grain, gold, and treasures within the village, determined to strip it of everything valuable. As the orcs continued their raid, a sudden barrage of arrows flew toward them with incredible speed. The arrows struck several goblin slaves, instantly turning them into stone. The orc leader, startled by the unexpected attack, roared in fury, demanding to know who dared to interfere. Nico stood defiantly before them, her eyes filled with determination. She warned the invaders to release her people and leave the village if they didn't want to share the same fate as the petrified goblins. Unfazed by the threat, the orc leader mocked her, questioning what power she had to make such demands. Without hesitation, a group of orcs lunged at Nico, intent on subduing her. At that moment, Lee Haoran entered the battlefield. Without wasting a second, he activated his upgraded skill, Blood Interment Level 2, ready to turn the tide of battle. The skill activated, sending blood thorns piercing through each orc near Nico, eliminating them instantly. With each kill, experience points accumulated, strengthening Lee Haoran further. System notifications confirmed the enhancement of Blood Interment LV.2, its range was no longer fixed, and the blood thorns could now automatically track up to 3 enemies within the attack zone, increasing both speed and frequency. Observing the attack unfold, Nico immediately recognizes it. The sheer power, the overwhelming presence, it could only belong to Haoran-sama. A wave of relief washes over her. Their village is saved. With the battlefield clearing, Lee Haoran stood unfazed, unimpressed by the early morning disturbance. Nico, still shaken, quickly turns to him. The threat had been real, these enemies weren't ordinary. But Lee Haoran reassures her. There's no need to worry. She can leave everything to him. The orc centurion, a level 3 mutant beast, questioned the presence of a vampire among the succubi, asserting that the situation had nothing to do with him and warning against involvement. However, Lee Haoran stood resolute, declaring his deep connection with the succubi through the very blood that ran in his veins. He refused to accept such a claim. He annoyed him too much and now any chance for regret had already too late. With unwavering determination, Lee Haoran activated his skill, Winner's Pact. In response, a banshee was summoned to the succubus village. As she arrived, Banshee Banshita made her presence known, ready to serve. As Banshee Banshita was summoned, she took her place in front of Lee Haoran on the battlefield, standing as a powerful guardian. Observing this, Nico was struck with awe, recognizing the sheer magical force emanating from the summoning. The presence alone radiated an overwhelming energy, reinforcing Haoran's strength. Despite this, the orc centurion remained unfazed, dismissing the summoning as nothing more than an assistant. With confidence, he boasted about the sheer numbers of his orc warriors, numbering no less than 80 or 100, believing there was nothing to fear. At that moment, Banshee Banshita unleashed her skill, Alpha Howl. As her chilling cries echoed through the battlefield, they began to take effect gradually. Among the orcs, a shift started to emerge. One orc slave, gripped by the overwhelming power of the howl, turned his own sword upon himself. Overcome with guilt, he could no longer bear the weight of his past actions. His mind clouded with remorse, he acknowledged his betrayal of his orc ancestors, deeming himself unworthy of existence in this world. Another orc slave, unable to resist the effects of Alpha Howl, smashed its own head in anguish. Overcome with guilt, it recalled the atrocities committed, abusing the weak, killing, looting, and burning, lamenting its existence as the shame of the orcs. With a final act of repentance, it sought to atone for its sins and death. One by one, every orc slave succumbed to the overwhelming despair inflicted by the howl, taking their own lives. As their bodies fell, Li Haoran absorbed the experience gained from their demise, further strengthening himself. Meanwhile, the orc centurion felt the powerful influence of the howl creeping into his mind. A strange disturbance took hold, filling his thoughts with an unnatural urge for self-destruction. Resisting the pull of despair, he rallied his will and bellowed with determination, declaring that the honor of the orcs rested upon his shoulders. Suddenly, the orc centurion was struck by a powerful attack, sending a shockwave through its body as its jaw shattered from the impact. Li Haoran, having delivered a forceful kick, stood firm, challenging the centurion's ideals. Without hesitation, he followed up with a crushing kick to the centurion's stomach, sending it reeling. With unwavering conviction, he declared that upon his shoulders rested the hopes of an entire people. With another devastating blow, he launched the orc centurion through the air. Without wasting a moment, Li Haoran activated Red Storm. From beneath his robe, a swarm of bats emerged, their crimson eyes glowing with relentless aggression as they descended upon the centurion. Despite being battered, the orc centurion remained defiant. It took pride in its formidable defense, believing the bats alone would not be enough to bring it down. However, frustration crept into its voice, acknowledging that if not for the strange cry earlier, the battle might have played out differently. Li Haoran stood unwavering, his gaze fixed on the orc centurion. The hypocrisy of the orc's expectations was laughable. After bringing an overwhelming force to attack the village, it now sought a fair one-on-one battle. Such naivete had no place on the battlefield. Without hesitation, Banshee Banshita unleashed Alpha Howl once more, her piercing cry reverberating across the battlefield. At the same moment, Nico activated her skill, Loving Light Projectile, hurling a radiant attack directly at the centurion. The combined force of both skills struck the orc with immense power, resulting in a deafening explosion. As the dust settled, the orc centurion lay on the ground, battered and wounded. Standing over the fallen warrior, Li Haoran remained resolute. Mercy had no place in this battle, leniency toward an enemy was nothing short of cruelty toward oneself. With that conviction, he activated Blood Interment. The skill surged forward, piercing through the orc centurion's entire body. There was no room for survival, death was absolute. Li Haoran stood firm, his gaze unwavering as he affirmed the true rule of combat, to strike when the enemy is weak and ensure their defeat. Victory was absolute. At that moment, the system notification echoed in his mind, confirming the orc centurion's demise. He has leveled up 2 times and obtained 10 attribute points. Instructs him to assign them. With the battle concluded, Li Haoran took a moment to assess the situation. The chaos had subsided, and the enemy had been vanquished. Looking around, he ensured the well-being of those who had fought alongside him. The villagers, though shaken, had suffered no major casualties. Nico stepped forward, expressing gratitude. Thanks to Li Haoran's intervention, the village had been spared from devastating losses. The comrades who had been captured and tied up had sustained only minor injuries, nothing that couldn't be treated. As the battle settled, the succubi gathered around, their eyes filled with admiration. One of them spoke with excitement, praising Haoran's strength and how effortlessly he had defeated the orcs. Another succubus voiced her relief, confident that after this battle, those invaders would no longer dare to trouble their village. A third, filled with gratitude, pondered how they could ever repay him for everything he had done. Li Haoran, however, turned his attention to Banshee Banshita. It was the first time he had summoned her, and she had exceeded expectations. Her haunting cry had made dealing with the orcs significantly easier. Acknowledging her efforts, he expressed his appreciation. For the first time, a faint blush appeared on Banshita's usually stoic face. Serving him was an honor, and as his humble servant, she vowed to give her utmost effort in fulfilling his commands. Li Haoran, with a firm expression, instructed Banshita to follow him, stating that he had an important task for her. Without hesitation, she acknowledged his command, ready to serve. Leading her into the depths of the woods, Li Haoran suddenly leaned in and bit her neck, drinking her blood. A shiver ran through Banshita as she felt the sensation. Banshita Banshee moaning says that the memory of the previous night lingers. She had endured torment involving a cucumber, leaving her in a weakened state. Now, instead of relenting, he continues biting her neck, refusing to let go. Banshita Banshee, blushing and breathing heavily, questions whether the important task mentioned was merely to satisfy an unusual preference. Despite the pain, she resolves to endure it as an order. The system then notifies that Banshita's affinity has increased to 50%, and the daily mission is completed, granting a +1 increase in spirit attributes. Lee Haoran clarifies that this is not a strange preference but a necessity, explaining that as a vampire, he must drink blood from a person of the opposite sex daily to maintain his energy. Observing Banshita's expression, he questions its peculiarity, suspecting that she may be experiencing anemia. Banshee, trembling and unable to stand on her own, feels her body overwhelmed with an unusual sensitivity. The memory of her defeat in the arena continues to replay in her mind whenever she sees Lee Haoran. Now, with his close proximity, a familiar sensation returns, making her body react involuntarily. Struggling to contain herself, she feels her strength fading once more. Blushing and breathing heavily, she finds the situation unbearable. A sense of shame overtakes her as she pleads for forgiveness, acknowledging that she can no longer endure it. Declaring her need to withdraw, she vanishes from sight. Lee Haoran remains silent, watching her departure. A thought lingers in his mind: was she truly that sensitive? That night, by the pond, Nico reflects on how Haoran-sama saved their village and wonders how they could possibly repay him. A friend responds with a simple yet bold suggestion, believing that offering their bodies would be the most sincere form of gratitude. Despite the idea, Nico hesitates, recognizing that Haoran-sama seems solely focused on battle. By his side are already remarkable women, such as Banshita and the human leader. Doubt fills her mind as she considers her own inexperience in matters between men and women. Blushing, she questions whether someone like her could truly satisfy him. See you with new episode next week. If you make this longer watching.